Hey everyone, it's me, Coffee Stitcher. Coming at you a little bit later. We had some stuff going on this morning that just kind of pushed me behind a bit. Everything's okay. Everything's okay there. Been kind of a doozy of the week in the world. Yeah. So I don't have any haul to speak of this week. I've got a little bit of Q&A. I've got my New Moon, New Start plan. I've got my July goals to show. Whip Go has not been announced yet. That'll be announced tomorrow. So my June goals are tentative, dependent upon what happens with Whip Go. And of course, what happens this week, too. With the start of the month being towards the end of the week, and there still being time, there is a chance that things may shift a little, but that's okay. That happens. We'll dive into the Q&A. The first one comes from Sarah R. She's wondering what projects am I UFOing? Nothing really too major. Probably the biggest one is I did go ahead and just straight out UFO the Hige stories because I just was not enjoying where they were going, and yeah, that was probably the biggest one. Yeah. Amy M121 asks, do you put anything in between your Q-snap clamps? I'm finding mine are squashing my stitches and I'm not sure what to do to avoid it. Well, to be honest, I don't tend to run into that problem because my stuff usually is only on the Q-step for a day or two. So I do know other people who do put things between them. But for my style of stitching, it doesn't tend to be a problem for me. And the projects where I have left them, like when I was working on cryptids, they were moved so often that it didn't really stay. Even if they stayed on the snap for a period of time, they didn't stay for long enough, I think, for it to do too much damage. Deborah Dixon asks, television or audiobooks while you stitch, or neither? It's a mix. I do some TV, sometimes movies, sometimes audiobooks, sometimes music, sometimes podcasts. It just sort of depends on what my mood strikes me as. I haven't been doing a lot of audiobooks lately since I gave up my subscription to Scribed, because I don't like to pay for audiobooks. If I'm going to pay $30, I want the physical book myself. So, I do tend to do music. I don't do podcasts as much. I tend to reserve those for when I'm driving. Because a lot of times I'll zone out on it while I'm stitching, and then I miss what's going on. Whereas when I'm driving, I don't. Ginny B asked, have I thought of using Apple's Files app and getting an Apple Pencil to mark on charts digitally? I haven't. I've tried other programs kind of similar that I didn't like how they worked. I didn't like that I couldn't control to the degree I wanted to control. And a lot of the time, too, with the ones where I am trying to mark off, if I make a counting error, it gives me a good spot to write in with. But I don't have a ton that I print out that aren't already on paper. They're very, very few and far between. It's mostly just like the Brookes or Mira's, or I assume when I'm planning to get some Bella Filipinas soon, so I'm sure they'll be in that same sort of category. First to the always lovely Michelle, thank you for the hair compliment. I literally did nothing with it. This is just how it looks. But thank you. She asks, she says, I love how you sub in fibers like fuzzy stuff. What's a good entry-level tip for doing that? For me, what got me started was I was at my LNS and saw the Whisper on the stand, and the shop owner at the time said, "Oh yeah, lots of people use that for like hair or animals or beards to give it texture." And I went, "Uh-huh. Okay." So that was when I started thinking about using fibers in a different way for more textural aspects. So when I want something, Whisper is really great when you need normal, regular, found in nature hair colors. They have a couple of sort of wild ones out there, but for the most part, it's going to be found in nature. Fuzzy stuff works great for feathery things or brightly colored things where you want that sort of texture of feathers or hair or fuzz, but it's not a found in nature color. Now, obviously, they do make some that are found in nature. And that's where I started really thinking about it. I've been doing a lot more thinking about texture and effects and beginning to kind of blur the lines into some needle pointy embroidery areas. So the best entry level point I can give you would be start with something small where you know specifically the type of texture you need, like hair, and then find what works for you going forward. There are lots of really awesome fibers that are out there that work great for needlework that you cannot use in cross stitch, so that makes me a little sad. Like there's one that Karen sells that looks like fishnets. And when I did the Rocky Horror one several years ago, I bought it hoping I could make that work, and I just couldn't. So it's all about trying to mimic things as best you can with needle and floss. So I hope that answered your question. As always, if it didn't, please don't be afraid to say so. Please ask me more questions. I enjoy questions. All right, so what did I work on this week? Well, I did finish Heart and Hand's Wonderful Life. It's a big piece. But this was my 14th finish of the year, so here, there it is, back as far as it goes. Now I'll come up so you can see it up closer. There's only like 2 colors that are actually the called for color in this piece. Everything else was garretized, basically. Those words took way longer than I feel like they should have. I started on those Sunday, and I worked on them Monday, and it still took me until Tuesday to do these words. Like, they were ridiculous to stitch. I don't know if it was just because they were, they're such a fancy font that I had to go slower. I don't know, but very glad they're done. Let's see. Then I did an experiment to see how it would work, and it works sort of okay-ish. I took L. Frank Baum to work on my breaks. And I'll do that again this week. I did manage to get partway around the border with the yellow. So I'm hoping to finish the border up this week and start in on the background. And then the next part of Under the Sea came out, which was very exciting. I did not do, the one piece part of it I didn't do was the title is out there. But I left it off because sorry, I'm trying to get to where I wrote the names down of all the peoples. Because I haven't decided if I want to use the pink or if I want to change the color, but I want to see more of the pattern as it comes before I make that call. So this is on Mini Waters from ship's manner. So here's where it is. So part 3, or the seahorses, the orange melon discus fishes, and the jellyfishes. And the jellyfish, oh good, they're actually showing up the way I wanted them to. You kind of have to be at a distance from them for it to read properly. But I did satin stitches in Krynic over their faces and such, so they would be more translucent. And I only did half stitches for the tentacles. The jellyfishes are named Smucker, Welch, and Knox. The seahorses are named Mr. Ed, Seabiscuit, and Silver. And the orange melon discus fishes are named Nina, Evelyn, and Sandra, or maybe Sandra, I'm not entirely sure, for the 3 women who hold gold medals in, 2 gold medals in the discus throwing at the Olympics. I had to get creative to come up with names for them. So, there we go. I'm really, really pleased with how the jellyfish turned out. It's a little bit, you really do have to have some distance on them in person for it to tell, for the effect to really show through. So I'm glad that it picks up. It didn't, I think, pick up on the photo, but it did. I'm glad it's picking up here. So, and that's what I meant about expanding my horizons and blending the area between embroidery and needlepoint and cross stitch to get effects. So I used a very similar effect on Oztree's Crystal Ball. And that was what kind of gave me the idea. There was some brainstorming and virtual stitchers that got me started on that path. And then in discussion with Zav Stitches yesterday, I went, ba-da-da! And there we go. Sorry, I didn't mean to just slam my glass down. Okay. Alright, so the new moon, new start for this week, or this month, is going to be Moonflower by Handstwork. So here's the pattern. It's okay, Asher Bear. Sorry, Asher's whining. I've converted I actually only, of the 14 colors in it, 2 of them were original arts, which I had. The rest were a company I don't support anymore, and 2 were Classic Colorworks, and I didn't have those colors on hand. So I went through and I basically converted all of them based off the DMC conversion on the back. Now, one other thing to sort of know about the pattern, because I really love it, it's the floss list. If you got the chart at market, now there has been a corrected one that has gone out to shop since, but if you got the one at market, this symbol list does not remotely match what's inside the pattern. There were a lot of errors. However, if you email her, she will send you a corrected version. And I'm going to be stitching this on blueberry sauce from Fortnite Fabrics. Sorry, that's crinkly and loud. I just dropped its color. But I'm going to stitch it on this. It's an Ada. But I thought moon sort of suggests that it needs to be more nighttime-y, especially with that sort of moon and stars, and I think with the white, that's just going to pop beautifully. So I'll be starting that this week on Tuesday. Alright, so let's talk July goals. Now, there are 2 minor caveats to this. Depending on what my magic wheel of magical wonderfulness spins, there are 2 projects that if I work on them again this month, they will probably be finished, in which case then we'll go back into the archives. I did bring 2 out of the archives already, so you'll see those as we do this. Alright, so first we've got Oztree by Tiny Modernist. This is on a one-off blue from Fortnite. So this is where I left off on it this week. Oh, which, by the way, Stitchy Princess, who's one of our Ukrainian designers, just released a really cool Wizard of Oz pattern that as soon as I'm done with Oztree, I will probably be starting. But here it is so far. So next I'm going to work, I'm just kind of working my way down the tree, I've decided. So next I will be working on the Tin Man branch. So, and it's got the apple, it's got the lollipop. So I'm sure I'll come up with some fun little tweaky things to do for it. But yeah. We shall see as we go. Oz tree. All right, Wicked Siblings. The plan for it. Okay, get its pattern pulled up. Come on. Oh, I love it when Dropbox responds to my touch the way I want it to. Okay, so my plan is going to be the tree up this side as well as those leaves there, and then we'll see how many of the regular leaves I can get to. This one's on another one-off from Fortnite Fabrics, but here's where I am. This is by Mama Witch Cross Stitch. So. Alright, well, who are you? Stitching Witches. So I wrote down on here my plan is going to be half of this band, which is band 10. However, I was looking at the pattern. It may not be as intense as I'm thinking it is. So we'll see. If it's one of those where it starts going real quick, then I'll finish out the band. If not, then we'll go from there. But that's where I'm at on it. Alright, then we've got Snow White. And this is by Brooke's Books. So I've decided that I'm not going to do her crown because I'm just not a huge fan of her crown, I think. So I think we're just going to leave it being the dress only. So that's the full pattern. My plan, according to this, is to finish out the cape and the birds. So, this is on Ale by Picture This Plus. So here's where I'm at. So the plan is going to be to finish out the cape, and then there's 2 birds. So I think that's an achievable goal. Alright, so one of the ones that came out from the vaults is my Merry Englebreit Rainy Day kit. This one, it's officially called Walk Towards Sunshine, and it says Walk Towards Sunshine and the shadows will fall behind you. It's a Bucilla kit. And I'm stitching it. I decided to stitch it on this pink fabric to avoid having to stitch all of the pink background. I didn't totally take into consideration that there's some half stitches in here, but that's okay. We'll just roll with it. We'll see how it looks. If I feel like I need to do something slightly different to make it look right, I will, but I think we're just going to roll with it. I think the pink's still going to look nice under it. So here's where I'm at on it. Last we left off. And it's funny because this one was one I went through, and one of the things I did when I was doing my UFOing was if there was a project in a project bag and I needed to take it out of the project bag, because I've been running low on them. And I thought, I haven't worked on this one in a while. Let's go ahead and take it out of its bag. And of course, this was one of them. So, yeah. All right. This is one I don't have a good cover for. It's Tempting Tangles, Corner of the Earth. Here's where I'm at on it. My goal is to do 2 more parts. Now, that being said, this is one that if I get this one brought up this week, then next month it'll definitely be a finish. Could easily be a finish this month too, depending on how quickly because there's 3 parts across here, and then there's 2 like partial parts down here that I'm doing. So there's basically like 4 parts left. And these don't take all that long. My goal on the Mary Englebreit kit is just 500 stitches. So this one's goal is going to be 2 parts, but I didn't list specifically which 2 because I don't know if it's going to come up this week or not. Another one that came back from the vaults, and I did work a little bit on it this week, not enough to make it worth a post, is the Mill Hill Christmas Village that I'm doing on one piece of fabric. So I've got Palace Theater started, so my goal is going to be the top half of the building. So there's where I am. I had some frogging that had to be done, so I kind of fixed where I was. So that's where I'm at on that. I definitely was in a finish hole this week. So that didn't, Wednesday and Thursday I didn't do a whole lot. Alright, now this one's another one that if it comes up this week, it will be a finish. Because it's going to be a finish one way or the other. It just depends on if it's going to pop up this week or not. So it's Little Women from Stitching Book Club, and I just have the border to do. So just that little bit there and there. I started it, or I decided not to do it, and then I decided on a new way of finishing it that meant I needed to. And then for a fleeting second, I actually thought I wasn't going to be able to finish it with the border, because I remembered that I accidentally lifted this up a space, but then I was looking at it and I added a space down here to sort of counteract that. So I don't know if I intentionally did that. I don't really remember, because I think by the point I got to this, I was like, I'm not doing that border. But there it is. But yeah, it's not going to take me hardly any time to stitch that, I don't think. And what I will probably do is, just to make sure, I'll do that top border first, and then I'll run the green border down the sides, and then if I'm not lined up where I need to be, then I can easily like remove a stitch on this border. So, but we will try not to have to do that. All right, only 2 more to go. The Move Forward in Love, the Pride Style from Modern Folk Embroidery. My plan is going to, on it, here's where I'm at. So I've got the center medallion mostly done. I figured out what I want to do here, here, and here. I just have to kind of make sure it's going to fit. But my plan is, because I was looking at it, and essentially there are 8 of these there's 8 birds, and then there's 8 of these flower things. So my plan is going to be to do an 8th. So, yeah. But we'll see. It may be one of those things that those may stitch quickly enough that I decide that I want to do more. We'll see. I'm looking forward to getting some more colors into the thing. And then finally, with the needle, which I found out I was actually pronouncing it incorrectly. It's Lila's Studio, not Lila's Studio. So it's by Lila's Studio. There's the pattern. So my plan is to do a quarter of, I'm calling it the home section. So I've got the border for that quarter done. There we go. So there it is. All right. And again, like I said, that's all up to, and I'll spin the wheel now, so we'll find out what I'm going to be working on today. It's all contingent on what happens with this wheel. So let's spin the wheel and find out. Let's make sure. Okay, they're all set at 100. All right, so spin the wheel. Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Ah, my Merry Englebreit rainy day kit. Did not anticipate that, so I'll work on that today and we'll see what happens. So, anyhow, I hope everyone has a good week, or as good a week as you possibly can. And I will see you here next week. Bye.